First contact. The vast command deck of the Sovereign might hummed with activity as Admiral Zarvex of the Acrylian Dominion surveyed the holographic display before him. For 3 millennia, the Acrylians had ruled this sector of the galaxy with unquestioned authority. Their crystalline ships, powered by quantum fold technology, were unmatched in speed and firepower. Their neural networks, linked directly to the pilots' minds, provided reaction times that left other species in awe. The Dominion had crushed all opposition, absorbed dozens of worlds, and established themselves as the undisputed masters of this galactic arm. Zarvex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the patrol reports. His iridescent exoskeleton caught the blue light of the displays, casting prismatic patterns across his command chair. The rhythm of the ship was as familiar to him as his own heartbeats. The low thrum of the quantum engines, the soft murmur of his officers exchanging data, the occasional ping of system updates. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Kriax from the sensor station. "We're detecting an anomaly at the edge of the Viridian sector." Zarvex's head tilted slightly. The Viridian sector was a largely empty region, used primarily as a buffer zone between Dominion space and the scattered primitive civilizations beyond. "Specify," he commanded, his voice resonating with the natural harmonic overtones of his species. "An unregistered vessel, sir. Configuration unknown." The lieutenant's digits danced across the control surface. "It's not transmitting any recognized identification codes." Zarvex rose from his command chair, his tall, slender form towering over the other officers. "Magnify." The main display shifted, focusing on a distant point of light. As the image enhanced, a ship took form, sleek and angular, with an unusual hull configuration that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the surrounding starlight. It was smaller than the Dominion's capital ships, but significantly larger than a scout vessel. "Have we encountered this design before?" Zarvex asked, though he already knew the answer. In his 3 centuries of service, he had memorized every known ship classification in the charted galaxy. "No, Admiral," responded Commander Trelvok, the tactical officer. "Our database has no match. The energy signature is unusual. It appears to be using some form of gravitational manipulation for propulsion." Zarvex's second heart quickened its pace. New technology was rare in a galaxy as thoroughly explored as theirs. "Origin." The officers exchanged glances before Kriax responded. "Based on trajectory analysis, it appears to have come from the Sol system." A ripple of surprise passed through the command deck. The Sol system was home to the humans, a curious bictal species that had been monitored but largely ignored by the Dominion. The last intelligence report, some 50 cycles ago, had classified them as pre-FTL, confined to their home planet, and a handful of primitive orbital installations. "That's impossible," Zarvex stated flatly. "The humans haven't developed interstellar capability." "The data is conclusive, Admiral," insisted Kriax. "And there's more. The vessel appears to be heavily armed." The display zoomed in further, revealing what were unmistakably weapon emplacements along the ship's hull. Not primitive kinetic weapons or basic energy cannons, but something more sophisticated: focusing arrays, particle accelerators, and what appeared to be gravity lance projectors. Zarvex felt an unfamiliar sensation creeping through his nerve clusters. Unease. The Dominion's supremacy was built on technological superiority. Their intelligence network was supposed to alert them long before any species developed technology that could potentially challenge them. Yet here was a human vessel with capabilities that, by all rights, should have taken them centuries to develop. "Send out a reconnaissance drone," ordered Zarvex. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." A sleek drone detached from the Sovereign Might, its crystal drive pulsing as it accelerated toward the unknown vessel. The command deck fell silent as everyone watched its approach. The drone's sensors would provide detailed information on the ship's composition, energy outputs, and potential threat level. As the drone neared the human vessel, something unexpected happened. A pulse of energy, invisible to the naked eye, but blazingly bright on their sensors, emanated from the ship. The drone's signal stuttered momentarily before resuming. "What was that?" demanded Zarvex. "Some form of scanning technology," replied Trelvok, surprise evident in his voice. It seems they detected our drone's stealth fields. That should have been impossible. Dominion stealth technology used phase-shifting principles that even their most advanced rival species couldn't detect. Yet this human vessel had not only detected it, but had done so casually, with apparently minimal effort. The drone continued its approach, gathering data. The command deck displays filled with streams of information: hull composition, energy signatures, internal structure estimates. And with each new piece of information, the tension on the command deck grew. "Admiral," Trelvok's voice had dropped to a near whisper, "their hull. It's composed of a metamaterial we've never encountered. And their weapons systems. I'm detecting capabilities that match or exceed our frontline battlecruisers." Zarvex's mind raced. How had this happened? How had humans, barely space-capable half a century ago, developed technology that rivaled the Dominion's? His strategic training kicked in. Whatever the explanation, the fact remained. An unknown, heavily armed vessel was at the edge of Dominion space. Protocol was clear. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "I want 3 battlecruiser squadrons here within the hour, and open a communication channel to that vessel." As his orders were relayed, Zarvex contemplated the situation. In all his years of service, the Dominion had never encountered a truly significant challenge. They had crushed rebellions, annexed primitive worlds, and maintained their supremacy through overwhelming technological advantage. But this was different. The main display shifted again, now showing the human vessel against the backdrop of stars. It had altered its position slightly, orienting itself toward the sovereign might. Its maneuvering was precise, almost elegant, not the clumsy movements one would expect from a species new to deep space travel. "They're responding to our hail," announced Kryax. "On screen," commanded Zarvex, straightening his posture. First impressions mattered, especially when dealing with potential threats. The display flickered, and a human face appeared. "Female," Zarvex noted, with dark skin and striking eyes that seemed to evaluate him with unnerving intensity. She wore a simple, dark uniform with minimal insignia, just a small emblem on her collar that resembled Earth's old astronomical symbol. "This is Captain Elena Chen of the Earth vessel Horizon Dawn," she spoke, her voice calm and measured. "You've entered restricted space." Zarvex blinked in surprise. The audacity. This was Dominion territory, had been for thousands of years. "This is Admiral Zarvex of the Acrylian Dominion flagship Sovereign Might," he replied, projecting authority in every syllable. "You are in Dominion space, operating an unauthorized vessel with military capabilities. State your purpose immediately." Captain Chen's expression remained unchanged. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding, Admiral. According to the Treaty of Proxima, signed by the Galactic Council 3 standard months ago, this sector is neutral territory, serving as a buffer between Earth Alliance space and the Dominion." Treaty of Proxima, Earth Alliance, Galactic Council participation. None of this made sense. Humans weren't part of the Galactic Council. They weren't even recognized as a spacefaring civilization. "No such treaty exists," stated Zarvex firmly. "The Dominion does not recognize any human claim to interstellar territory." "That's unfortunate," replied Chen, seeming genuinely regretful. "Perhaps your central government hasn't updated your fleet yet. The treaty was negotiated directly with High Chancellor Nexferin." Zarvex felt a chill run through his neural pathways. High Chancellor Nexferin was indeed the supreme leader of the Dominion, but that information wasn't widely shared with other species. Either this human had exceptional intelligence sources, or "We have no record of any diplomatic contact with humans at such a level," he said carefully. "I suggest you power down your weapons systems and prepare to be escorted to the nearest Dominion starbase for verification of your claims." Captain Chen smiled slightly. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Admiral. But perhaps this will help clarify the situation." She made a small gesture, and the view on the screen pulled back, revealing more of the bridge of her vessel. It was surprisingly minimalist. Clean lines, holographic interfaces, and a crew that seemed relaxed despite the confrontation. But what caught Zarvex's attention was the view screen visible behind Captain Chen. It showed space outside her ship, and the massive fleet that had apparently just emerged from some form of stealth or phase cloak. Dozens of vessels, ranging from sleek corvettes to massive dreadnoughts, all bearing the same design language as the Horizon Dawn. "As you can see, Admiral," continued Chen, her voice still perfectly composed, "the Horizon Dawn is merely an advanced diplomatic vessel. The Earth Defense Fleet is positioned just outside your sensor range. We had hoped for a peaceful first official contact, but were prepared for less favorable outcomes." Zarvex felt his world tilting. This couldn't be happening. Humans were primitive, barely able to reach their own moon last time the Dominion checked. Yet here they were, with technology that matched or exceeded the Dominion's, and a fleet that had somehow approached without detection. "This is absurd," he managed to say. "We've monitored Earth for centuries. Your species was pre-FTL just decades ago." Captain Chen's smile widened slightly. "Appearances can be deceiving, Admiral. While the Dominion was watching our public space programs, our true development was happening elsewhere. We've been aware of the Dominion's surveillance for quite some time." As if on cue, Trelvok called out, "Admiral, we're detecting multiple spatial distortions. More vessels are appearing." The tactical display updated, showing new signatures emerging from what appeared to be localized folds in spacetime. Not wormholes or traditional FTL emergence points, but something different, as if these ships were simply stepping from one layer of reality into another. "What you're witnessing," explained Chen, "is our phase shift technology. For the past 70 years, humanity has been developing in parallel space, hidden from conventional detection. We've established colonies, built our fleet, and prepared for our emergence onto the galactic stage." Zarvex stared at the display in disbelief. The humans hadn't just developed interstellar travel. They'd mastered technologies that the Dominion's best scientists had only theorized about. And they'd done it in secret, away from prying eyes. "Why reveal yourselves now?" he asked, his strategic mind already calculating the implications. If what the human captain said was true, the balance of power in the sector had just shifted dramatically. "Because it's time," Chen replied simply. "The galaxy is changing, Admiral. New threats are emerging from beyond the rim. Old powers are fading. Humanity has chosen to step forward now, while there's still time for peaceful integration rather than conflict." The tactical display continued to update as more human ships appeared. Their formation was disciplined, their positioning strategic, clearly designed to demonstrate force without appearing overtly threatening. Zarvex made his decision. "Captain Chen, I propose a formal meeting to discuss this unexpected situation. The Dominion is not seeking conflict." "A wise choice, Admiral," nodded Chen. "I'm authorized to represent Earth in preliminary discussions. Shall we say 1 standard hour? You may bring a small delegation aboard the Horizon Dawn." As the communication ended, Zarvex turned to his stunned bridge crew. "Prepare a diplomatic team," he ordered, "and send an encrypted message to High Command. Priority Alpha." As his officers rushed to comply, Zarvex returned his gaze to the view screen. The human vessels hung against the starfield, elegant, powerful, and completely unexpected. A species that had been dismissed as primitive had suddenly emerged as a major power, and somehow they had done it right under the Dominion's nose. The galaxy had changed today, and as Zarvex prepared to meet with Captain Chen, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a profound transformation in the cosmic order. The Reckoning. Admiral Zarvex had faced many challenges during his 3 centuries of service to the Acrylian Dominion. He had crushed rebellions, negotiated surrenders, and expanded the Empire's reach across dozens of star systems. But nothing in his extensive experience had prepared him for the situation he now faced. The shuttle bay of the human vessel Horizon Dawn was immaculate, its design both functional and aesthetically pleasing. Unlike the crystalline, angular architecture favored by the Acrylians, the human ship featured smooth curves and integrated systems that seemed to flow organically through the structure. As Zarvex stepped off his shuttle with his small diplomatic team, he noted the minimal security presence. Just 4 human officers in simple uniforms, their weapons discreetly holstered. Either the humans were foolishly trusting, or they were so confident in their technological superiority that they didn't feel threatened by the Acrylian delegation. Zarvex suspected the latter, which unsettled him deeply. "Welcome aboard the Horizon Dawn, Admiral," greeted Captain Chen, who had come to the shuttle bay personally to meet them. "Please follow me to the conference room." As they walked through the corridors of the human vessel, Zarvex observed everything with keen interest. The ship hummed with energy, but it was different from the quantum resonance of Acrylian vessels, more like a living pulse than a mechanical vibration. The crew they passed were diverse in appearance, but unified in their calm efficiency. None showed the fear or awe that other species typically displayed in the presence of Acrylian officials. The conference room was a surprise, a circular chamber with a 360-degree viewing field that gave the impression of sitting in open space. The stars surrounded them, with holographic displays hovering gently above the central table. "An impressive ship, Captain," Zarvex commented as they took their seats, "particularly for a species that, according to our last intelligence, was struggling to maintain a primitive space station around your home planet." Captain Chen's smile was polite, but held a hint of amusement. "That space station was primarily for show, Admiral. A distraction, if you will." "A distraction from what exactly?" asked Commander Trelvok, Zarvex's tactical officer. In response, Chen made a gesture, and the space around them transformed. The starfield was replaced by a holographic representation of the Sol system, but not as the Acrylians knew it. In addition to Earth and its moon, the display showed massive structures orbiting Mars, mining operations throughout the asteroid belt, and what appeared to be terraforming projects on several moons of Jupiter and Saturn. "While your monitoring stations observed our public space program," explained Chen, "our true development was happening in shielded locations. Phase shift technology allowed us to build and operate without detection." The display changed again, expanding beyond the Sol system to show a network of star systems connected by lines representing travel routes or communication paths. "The Earth Alliance currently encompasses 27 star systems, 42 habitable worlds, and over 200 space habitats," continued Chen. "We have established diplomatic relations with 15 non-human species, most of whom were also unknown to or ignored by the Dominion." Zarvex felt a creeping dread. The galaxy he thought he understood was revealing itself to be vastly different from his perception. "How is this possible? Our surveillance network is based on conventional technology," Chen finished for him. "It can't detect what exists partially out of phase with normal spacetime. Humanity learned to operate in that boundary state 73 years ago, following an unexpected encounter." "Encounter?" echoed Zarvex. Captain Chen's expression grew more serious. "With a crash Acrylian scout ship." The admission hit Zarvex like a physical blow. The Dominion had lost contact with a scout vessel in the Sol sector decades ago. It had been written off as destroyed by a natural phenomenon, a solar flare or unexpected asteroid collision. "The pilot survived long enough to share some basic information," Chen continued. "Enough for our scientists to understand that we were being watched by a vastly superior power that viewed us as primitive and unworthy of attention. It was motivating." Zarvex could imagine. The knowledge that an advanced civilization was monitoring them, potentially hostile, would indeed drive rapid technological development. But the leap from where they had been to where they now stood was still mind-boggling. "You couldn't have developed all this technology from a single crashed scout," Trelbach insisted. No, agreed Chen. The scout was just the beginning, our wake-up call. The real breakthrough came from our own scientists, working in secret. Dr. Eliana Reeves discovered the principles of phase shifting quite by accident. Once we understood how to partially shift matter out of conventional spacetime, everything changed. We could build, explore, and expand without detection. The holographic display shifted again, now showing what appeared to be construction facilities hidden within the moon itself, completely invisible to conventional scanning technology. But why hide? Asked Zarvex. Why not announce yourselves once you achieved interstellar capability? Captain Chen leaned forward slightly. Would the Dominion have welcomed a new spacefaring species with open arms? Based on your treatment of other emerging civilizations, we thought not. So we chose to develop in secret until we were strong enough that first contact could happen on equal terms. Before Zarvex could respond, a subtle tone sounded, and a new human entered the conference room, an older male with silver-streaked hair and an air of quiet authority. Admiral Zarvex, Chen said, rising. May I present Admiral Marcus Constantine, commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. Constantine nodded in greeting. Sorry to interrupt, but we've received word that your reinforcements have arrived at the edge of the system. 3 battlecruiser squadrons, if our intel is correct. Zarvex felt a surge of confidence. His vessels were the pride of the Dominion fleet, representing the pinnacle of their military technology. Yes, he acknowledged. Standard protocol when encountering unknown vessels with military capabilities. Admiral Constantine nodded understandingly. Of course, we've taken the liberty of deploying our own defensive screen. I hope you don't mind. The holographic display shifted once more, showing the approaching Dominion fleet and the human vessels now positioned to intercept them. The disparity was immediately apparent. While the Dominion had sent 3 squadrons, approximately 30 ships, the human defensive formation numbered well over 100 vessels of various sizes. "An impressive show of force," remarked Zarvex, trying to maintain his composure. "Merely precautionary," replied Constantine with disarming casualness. "We've been observing Dominion tactical protocols for some time. Your commanders tend to be aggressive when faced with uncertainty." The implication was clear. The humans had not only been hiding their development, but actively studying the Dominion's military tactics. Zarvex felt like he was losing control of the situation with every passing moment. Perhaps a demonstration would help establish mutual understanding, suggested Captain Chen. She made another gesture, and the display zoomed in on a particular human vessel, sleek, predatory, and bristling with what appeared to be advanced weapon systems. "The Artemis-class destroyer," she explained. "Our standard combat vessel. Would you like to see what it can do?" Without waiting for a response, the display showed the destroyer breaking formation and approaching an uninhabited planetoid at the edge of the system. As the Acrylian delegation watched, the vessel fired a concentrated beam of energy that seemed to bend space itself around the target. The planetoid didn't explode or disintegrate as Zarvex expected. Instead, it simply ceased to exist, leaving nothing but empty space where it had been. "Phase displacement technology," explained Admiral Constantine. "Rather than destroying the target conventionally, it shifts it permanently out of our reality. Clean, efficient, and virtually impossible to defend against with conventional shields." Zarvex felt his secondary hearts racing. The weapon he had just witnessed violated several laws of physics as the Dominion understood them. If the humans could produce such weapons in quantity, and the fleet formation suggested they could, then the entire strategic balance of the galaxy had already shifted. "Why are you showing us this?" he asked, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. "Because we want peace, Admiral," replied Chen simply. "But peace built on mutual respect, not on one side believing itself inherently superior. Humanity has no desire to conquer or destroy the Dominion. We're explorers and builders by nature. But we will defend ourselves and our allies if threatened." Admiral Constantine nodded in agreement. The galaxy is facing challenges greater than petty power struggles between civilizations. There are threats emerging from the intergalactic void that will require cooperation on an unprecedented scale. What threats? Demanded Zarvex. The two humans exchanged glances before Constantine answered. Our long-range phase scouts have detected large-scale movement in the space between galaxies. Something is coming. Something ancient and immensely powerful. We call them the Harbingers, based on fragmentary records from extinct civilizations we've discovered. The display changed again, showing what appeared to be massive structures, or possibly organisms, moving through the void between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies. Within 50 years, they will reach the outer rim of our galaxy, continued Constantine. Based on what happened to other galaxies they visited, we can expect systematic harvesting of resources, including sentient life. No single civilization can stand against them. Not humanity, not the Dominion, not any known power. Zarvex stared at the display, his tactical mind already analyzing the implications. If what the humans were showing him was real, and he had no reason to doubt it now, then everything changed. The Dominion's expansionist policies, its resource wars, its technological hoarding, all seemed petty in the face of such a threat. This is why we've revealed ourselves now, explained Chen. Not to challenge the Dominion, but to begin building the coalition that will be necessary for survival. We've already established alliances with several species in adjacent sectors. We hope the Dominion will join us. Zarvex was silent for a long moment, contemplating. Everything he knew about his civilization's place in the galaxy had been upended in a matter of hours. The humans, dismissed as primitive and unworthy of serious attention, had not only achieved technological parity, but had surpassed the Dominion in critical areas. And now they spoke of existential threats from beyond the galaxy. I will need to consult with High Command, he said finally. This changes everything. Of course, nodded Constantine. We understand this is a lot to process. But don't take too long, Admiral. The Harbingers won't wait for political consensus. As the meeting concluded, and Zarvex prepared to return to his ship, Captain Chen accompanied him to the shuttle bay. They walked in silence for a time, both aware of the weight of what had transpired. You know, Chen said eventually, there's an old human saying, the most dangerous assumption is that the universe is static. Your people assumed we would always be primitive. We assumed we had time to develop at our own pace. Both assumptions were wrong. Zarvex glanced at her. Despite his shock and the blow to his pride, he found himself respecting this human captain. What happens now? That depends partly on you, she replied honestly. Will the Dominion accept that the galaxy has changed? That humanity is now a power to be reckoned with. That cooperation might be the only path to survival. At the shuttle bay entrance, Chen stopped and turned to face him directly. Admiral, humanity doesn't want war. We've had enough conflict in our own history to know its cost. What we want is a future, for ourselves and for all sentient species. The question is, what do the Acrylians want? Zarvex considered her words carefully. His duty was to the Dominion, to its expansion and glory. But if what the humans had shown him was true, then glory might be meaningless in the face of extinction. I will convey everything I've learned to High Command, he said formally, including the threat of these Harbingers. I cannot predict their response, but I will advocate for further dialogue. Chen nodded, seeming satisfied. That's all we can ask for now. Safe journey, Admiral. As Zarvex's shuttle departed the horizon dawn, he gazed out at the assembled human fleet, a force that had materialized from nowhere to challenge the established order of the galaxy. Part of him still couldn't believe what he had witnessed. Humans, with their brief lifespans and tumultuous history, had achieved what many ancient species could not. His transmission to High Command would reshape Dominion policy for centuries to come. The age of unchallenged Acrylian supremacy was over. A new era was beginning, one where humanity stood as equals, or perhaps even superiors, to the old powers of the galaxy. And beyond that immediate shock lay the greater challenge, the approaching harbingers and the existential threat they represented. If humanity and the Dominion could not find common ground, there might be no civilization left to rule the stars. As his shuttle docked with the sovereign might, Zarvex made his decision. He would tell the High Command everything, without embellishment or political shading. The future of his species, perhaps of all species, might depend on how they responded to the sudden emergence of humanity as a galactic power. The stars outside seemed different now. The void between them no longer simply empty space, but filled with hidden dangers and unexpected possibilities. The galaxy had changed today, and Admiral Zarvex of the Acrylian Dominion had been among the first to witness the dawn of a new cosmic order. In the command center of the Horizon Dawn, Captain Alina Chen watched the Acrylian shuttle depart and allowed herself a small smile. First contact had gone better than expected. The Dominion hadn't immediately attacked, and Admiral Zarvex had seemed genuinely thoughtful by the end of their meeting. "Do you think they'll join us?" asked Admiral Constantine, coming to stand beside her. Chen considered the question carefully. "Eventually. They have no choice, really. The math doesn't lie. Either we stand together, or the Harbingers destroy us all. And if they choose aggression instead, then we demonstrate exactly how far humanity has come," she replied, her voice hardening slightly. "But I'm hopeful it won't come to that. Despite their imperial nature, the Acrylians are rational. They'll see the logic of alliance." As the Acrylian shuttle disappeared into the hold of their massive flagship, Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had remained hidden for decades, developing in secret while the galaxy's powers looked elsewhere. Now, they had stepped onto the galactic stage, not as supplicants or junior partners, but as equals. The road ahead would be challenging. Alliances would need to be forged, technologies shared, armies combined. But for the first time in galactic history, species that had evolved on thousands of different worlds would need to see past their differences and recognize their common stake in survival. And humanity, the unexpected player, would help lead the way.